There's a tool specifically for this that you can find for free on trevorgblake.com. And it's basically you reframe it into an imaginary scenario where you go, when I'm financially independent, I will go to my nearest liquor store, buy the most expensive bottle of champagne for cash, and I'll have all my friends around to celebrate the fact that I no longer have any kind of debt.
Hey everyone, it's Jen Foster here with the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. We're really excited to have Trevor G. Blake with us today, and he is going to talk to us about mindset and entrepreneurship. He has been a serial entrepreneur, and he has sold businesses over $100 million. He also has a New York Times bestselling book called 3 Simple Steps. We're really excited to dive in and get all the information on how he accomplished all of these wonderful things. So welcome.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about your background and how you first got started in building businesses, entrepreneurship, all that stuff.
I've never met an entrepreneur who set out to be an entrepreneur, not a successful one anyway. We're all kind of people who fix stuff. So I'm a fixer. I see something that I'd like and it doesn't exist, so I'll find a way to bring it into existence, or something that needs improving and there isn't a solution, I'll find a way to improve it, even though I'm never qualified and I never have enough money to get all those things. A little bit of craziness goes a long way. So the outside world sees me as a serial entrepreneur because that's the most obvious thing. And to date, 7 companies, enterprise value of 600 million. These are good numbers to talk about because I think a lot of people talk a good game, but don't actually play a good game. And so I wrote my first book, 3 Simple Steps, after having some success using a formula. Not because my book was on Oprah when I've never been successful before, which is typical of most personal development and self-help books. I'm very proud. I have to say it's the New York Times bestseller 3 times by word of mouth. And that's really just me. If you're asking me, who do I think I am? I'm a 5-year-old boy who's never grown up and I never intended to. And I feel like I've had a great adventure, all the ups and downs like everybody does, but I still feel like I'm a bloomer somehow. I feel like there's an awful lot left to do.
I like that. I think at the beginning, in the green room, you talked about just getting started. So you're just getting started. Yeah. I love that you have that mindset of the inner child or the 5-year-old self. So tell us, let's dive into mindset, because I don't know if the 3 Simple Steps, because I haven't read your book, but if that's about mindset, but I know for entrepreneurship, if you don't have that mindset and the energy, you're not going to keep going.
Yeah. And it's not that we have to become saint-like in order to succeed. I have as many negative thoughts as anybody does, but I've learned how to handle them. And that's the key thing. I don't believe in positive thinking. I think it's nonsense. If you see a grizzly bear running at you, you're not going to say, oh, a lovely looking animal. You're going to run like hell. So positive thinking doesn't always serve us the best. I think sometimes negative thinking serves us better. And it's okay. Yeah. What we have control over is how we react to the thoughts and the words we just had. And that's the difference. That's mentality control. And it is, you're right, it's step 1 of 3 simple steps. And it's about how we can reclaim the confidence that we somehow have had beaten out of us by life. Is how we get back to saying, okay, these thoughts I'm having, they're self-sabotage. That's okay. I'm not going to beat myself up by having them, but I'm going to pause a bit. I'm going to sit back and say, how can I reframe this in a way that would be more beneficial? And I do this in business all the time because you're always getting knocked back in business. Even investors invested in my first company won't invest in my 8th company. And it really does knock you back because you think, what else do I have to do to prove myself? I made you 100 million for goodness sake, but no, they don't want to do it. So when you get knocked back, it's how you reframe those thoughts to get out of, because otherwise we create a form of quicksand and the harder we struggle, the deeper we sink. If we just are aware of the power of our thoughts. So I'm trained as a physicist. Okay. And so as a physicist, I'm always fascinated by how and why things work. But I also know that everything in the universe is made of the same type of energy, including you and I, including what we're speaking through. All of this is made of the same building blocks. And that means that thoughts and words are also a form of energy. And they can be incredibly powerful, but we just take them for granted. We can destroy someone with a chosen word, or we can build somebody up with a chosen word. We're very being kinder to ourselves. And every now and then catching ourselves having let's use an example. For instance, let's say you've just seen your credit card bill and you go, oh God, what did I do? I didn't need to buy those shoes. That type of thing. And we beat ourselves up. And what we're doing is we're creating thoughts of debt. Mm-hmm. That's energy. And energy goes by specific laws. It's not like the law of attraction, which isn't actually a law. It's laws of energy, which are laws. Yeah. Laws of energy say that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted. But what we do with our words and thoughts is we put them into the universe and they convert to the material equivalent. So we end up creating more of the same patterns of behavior, more of the same experiences. So if we're constantly thinking about being in debt, we end up in more debt. If we're constantly thinking about wanting to change something in our life, that thing we want to change stays there. So we have to have our thoughts. And the first third of 3 Simple Steps is just some tools and techniques that are very easy to use and a lot of fun that you can immediately start to use tomorrow and change your life forever.
So let's break it down on the reframing. So say you say, oh, I'm in debt. I need this. How do you reframe that to say, because in your head, you're saying, oh, I don't have money, or I'm in debt, right? Or, oh, this credit card bill, I don't know how I'm going to find this money. And it's all negative. So how do you reframe that so that you can stay in that higher energy?
Yeah, you're also, by saying and feeling those things, really hurting yourself because you're saying, I've messed up. We're saying, oh, I've messed up. I've failed. I'm not as smart as everybody else. And so that's very damaging, self-sabotage. So what you do is you play a clever trick in your brain. There's a tool specifically for this that you can find for free on trevorgblake.com. And it's basically, you reframe it into an imaginary scenario where you go, when I am financially independent, I will go to my nearest liquor store, buy the most expensive bottle of champagne for cash, and I'll have all my friends around to celebrate the fact that I no longer have any kind of debt. And so we play what we really want in the future and bring it into the present. It's a trick. It's science. It's not woo. It's neuroplasticity. There's all kinds of names for this reframing. It gets a bit boring, so I've made it into fun by providing tools that you can go out and do. And I call one the grocery store challenge. So we go to a
grocery store challenge. Let's go back to what you just said, because you said it's not just about reframing it and saying it in a different way, like your words. It's also playing it out. So that is, you said you had to have the feelings and the energy. So you're saying, okay, we're going to go buy the champagne and you're going to invite all your friends. It's the visualization, right?
You actually nailed it with when you said feeling, you nailed it. Okay. So it's about getting into the feeling of what that would be like. And what feeling, then we get it. It turns up anyway. If we're feeling shameful because of our debt, we'll just get more of that. So if we start to make ourselves feel happy and proud that we're out of debt, then that shows up. So I have a membership group transformation experience, the course, but it's an experience, 30 to 45 days. And almost everybody that comes into that is up the rise in debt when they come in. And the first thing that happens is they get out of debt. It just happens beautifully and flowing and naturally just by changing our mentality. It's powerful. It's freeing. I get people send me emails all in capital letters. It goes, wow, OMG, I can't remember the last time I was out of debt. And that's really freeing. And it's very important. It's hard to succeed in the material side of life with debt around us. So that's number one. Numero uno is get out of debt. And that's good for everybody. But you nailed it because you said it's feeling the energy of that.
Yeah. And what would you say the words are you use? Because I know a lot of people will say, I'm going to be debt free. So what is the words to flip that around? Because you aren't supposed to say that, right? Because that's the negative part.
Right. Also, most people will say I will or can and one day and I wish and all that kind of stuff. And into the future. We don't know we're doing it to ourselves, but scientifically what you're doing is creating a future of frustration. So what you use is present tense. So you can say, so my first ever intention for my first ever company, when I hadn't even started the company, was I have sold my company for at least $100 million. That was my first intention. And then I sold it 5 years later for 105.5. So that's even better, right? So you feel good. So in this situation, you would say, I am financially independent. And that's wonderful. And that feels fantastic, right? Whereas that's better than saying I'm debt free or I'm out of debt. I am financially independent. There's a very quick exercise all of your listeners or watchers can do that can help understand this without me rambling on about it, because it takes more to talk about it than it does to do it. And that's to go into the mirror, look at your reflection and go, I feel really tired. And see what happens to your reflection. Right? You start to think down, the shoulders droop, you start to actually feel tired. You just made yourself tired. And then say, okay, I'm going to switch it. I'm going to say, I could use more energy right now. And watch what happens to your body. You lift up, you stretch out. And you know what? You feel more energy. It's simple, but you have to do the tools. You have to play with it a little bit and have some fun.
Yeah. And I think that's true. Like when you say like, I feel tired, you definitely feel tired. Like when people ask you, how are you? And you're like, oh, I'm tired. And you totally do the whole swamp thing, right?
Law used to tell me, because I always some kind of did look tired. And she'd come up to me and say, oh, you look tired today, Joe. And it was a long time before I realized you just made me tired.
Right.
I always just respond to it like, yeah, you're right. I could use more energy today, Sarah. Goes away,
And then it goes up because then you say energy and you're talking about the feeling you want to have. I love that. That's really good. Okay. So the first step is mindset.
Yeah.
What's the second step?
So what happens scientifically when we do these things is we create new neural pathways. So we have 100 billion neurons and most of them don't get used. So we use a few of the unused neurons, create a new neural pathway. And this is what we do when we're born, right? And so we have 100 billion neurons when we're born too. And what we tend to do is then fill them with stuff, right? So we fill them with what our parents tell us, what school tells us, what the world tells us, all the fearful headlines we're forced to watch on the television and all that kind of stuff. So we end up causing all kinds of restrictions and limits. So now that you've reframed some of these words and has created some new neural pathways, the worst thing you can do is go back to sitting in front of the TV and watching how terrible the world is. So what we do is we take these new neural pathways and we plug them into something more beneficial. So part 2 or step 2 of 3 simple steps is how to connect. And I learned this by being very lucky as a man to be married to amazing. So I was married for 40 years to my first wife. She died in 2020, but she had such feminine power, which meant she had incredible intuition and this depth of knowing. And I wanted to understand that and I studied it. And so we have tools and techniques to achieve that. I've remarried. I'm 3.5 years old with my new wife and she has incredible intuition and sometimes just has this sense of knowing that to me as a man frustrates the hell out of me. Like, how would you know? And said, no, I just know. And so what we do in step 2 is learn the tools and techniques to get to the point of I just know. So we plug in through nature, through a very simple form of meditation to help us really start to develop a depth of intuition. It sounds woo, right, when you talk about these things. But the reason for doing it is I've lost count of how many dumb decisions I've made in my life. So if I have stronger intuition, I'm likely to make slightly less dumb decisions than I did before. Not going to be perfect, right? But I'm still going to make some dumb decisions that we all do, but less of them. And when it comes to a critical decision, I'm more likely to make a good decision because I'm using intuition and knowing. So step 2 is about how to take these new neural pathways and plug them into intuition. And that's so
I like that.
All of my companies have come from an intuitive decision because of this. I've never sat down with a computer and analyzed it ever.
Intuition.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, and I think the intuition comes because of what you were just saying about getting connected and having meditation. So I know there's probably a lot of listeners that are like, well, I've never meditated. I mean, I pray or I think about these things, but I've never really meditated. So how would you tell them, like if they've never meditated before, what would you tell them to do to start? Like, how would they start?
Yeah, it's really, so I have a very simple technique called taking quiet time for 20 minutes. How did I come up with that? I never meditated either. And I grew up really poor and I wanted to get out of that. I didn't want the life that was the trajectory that was promised for me based upon my circumstances. And so I read a bunch of biographies, like how did these people do it? Because these people had worse circumstances than I did. How did they get out? And they all had their own form of meditation, although they might not have called it that back in time. So one of my favorite biographies, the hero of the biography sat in a tree. Henry Ford sat in a rocking chair. All of these people, Samuel Colt, weeded a garden. And what they were doing was connecting with earth. Obviously, that's essential. But the second thing they were doing was isolating themselves or disconnecting themselves from the negativity of the world around them. And so for me, I just said, okay, if it worked for them, it might work for me, I'll give it a go. So I was about 15 years old when I started. And so what I would do is just sit in a chair for 20 minutes and just try not to think so much. And I wasn't perfect at it. I'm not even perfect at it now. And I've been doing it all of these years. But everyone I've taught this to, the taking quiet time, it takes away the woo, but it also takes away the stress of having to try and get something right. Do a meditation technique and do it right. It's nonsense. You just have to sit in a chair for 20 minutes. That's it. And don't we all deserve 20 minutes to ourselves once a day? I mean, what's wrong with that? So I tend to do it first thing in the morning because I've got the place to myself. Animals aren't going to disturb me. They're not crying to go out for a walk or anything. And so I do that. But you can do it any time of the day, but just treat yourself to 20 minutes of your own time once a day and miracles show up. Amazing things happen. And everyone's experienced it because everyone's had probably a shower moment. You're in the shower, you're not really thinking about anything except showering, and you're probably a bit tired from just waking up. And we always get those aha moments. You go, oh, like that's it. And so the benefit of the taking quiet time is that beautiful, intuitive, sudden knowing. And the number of times I've spent hours in front of the computer trying to crack a problem and then gone for a walk in the woods and it's just appeared from nowhere. Oh, why didn't I just go for a walk?
Right?
Yeah. So it's just very, very simple.
I really like that. And so we talked about how to connect and just knowing and meditation, but then you said something about how to disconnect. And I think that's the important part that's a little bit hard for a lot of people in today's society, because we're not disconnected from the internet, disconnected from our phones, disconnected from that busy time or the computer time or all of the busy things we have to do. And so I think it's really important, like you said, to take that 20 minutes for yourself at whatever time of day it works best for you. But in the morning sounds like you're fresh, you're awake, and you just disconnect from everything and just sit for the 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's well said, and I thank you for putting it that way. The reason for doing it probably first thing in the morning is that you don't get distracted by the pesky pings, because you'd have to be superhuman when your phone starts pinging to just sit there and do nothing. You can't. I've got to know who pinged me, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably somebody selling me some rubbish, but I still have to know.
Disconnecting and making sure it's our phones are not pinging us. I do know some people who just go on their phone right when they wake up before they even step out of bed.
It's crazy.
And I'm like, but why? Because don't you have to wake up and remember your dream? And I'm like, oh, I don't remember my dreams. Oh, I wonder why.
Exactly. It's funny you should say that, because Jess, my wife, she has a notebook next to the bed. And so the first thing she does when she wakes up is write down her dream every day. But we're also very disciplined with the phone. So we make sure it's on airplane mode overnight. And so it can only disturb us if we choose to be disturbed, which really, I don't know why people wouldn't use that technology. It's a good tip, right?
That's a really good tip for people, is to do that airplane mode. I know some people that will turn their Wi-Fi off at night, but the thing is you still have your network. So turning the airplane mode on is really good.
Yeah, you deserve it. You deserve a break. And then you do it first thing in the morning. I have people who say, I like my sleep and I don't have time, but just get up 20 minutes earlier. What's hard about that? Your life's at stake. I have no talent, and it's not like I've had genius ideas. I haven't. All I've done in life is read biographies and steal their ideas. One being mentality control, the other being taking quiet time and going into nature. Discipline myself to go into nature an hour a day, every day, just in nature. And where all the magic happens to me, all the great ideas. It's not hard. These are not genius ideas, and they're not even my ideas. They go back in time.
I think it was Jim Rohn that said, success leaves clues.
Yeah.
So, you don't reinvent the wheel. Just go see what other people have done that you want to do and go do that.
Yeah, it worked for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've talked about the first and second step. What is the third step again?
Third step is really one of the big secrets to success. They're only secrets because nobody really talked about it, but I am talking about it now. And that is, there's a magic of thinking big. There's a real magic to thinking big. And in all of the tests that are worth reading of what it takes to be successful, what makes some people successful and others with the same conditions not as successful, the conclusions are always the same. One is self-confidence. And we learn that through mentality control and intuitive decision making. And number two is a tendency to set really big targets. The impossible, the ones that make people go, you're crazy, right? When we set really big targets, everything else seems like child's play. So we get everything we would have set previously anyway. It just comes to us automatically because we're not trying to get it. And we set a really big target. When we go for the big target, everything else falls into place. And in my life, I've set what other people would call ridiculous ideas and ridiculous targets, like a side effect free treatment for cancer. And I've lost count. There must be 300 people in my life who've told me that's insane. It can't be possible. But we've done it. It's in clinic. It's in the trials right now. And
awesome.
Yeah, it's good. That's a really crazy big target.
Yeah.
Especially as I am not qualified to do that. I'm a physicist. I don't know chemistry or biology. But we've done it. So that there is a magic of setting big targets. And the program for that, or the tool for that I have, is called intention setting. I call it the science of intentions. And if it's of interest to anybody, you can get a free look at it and get lots of free information at trevorgblake.com. I've got loads of freebies on the website. I do this for cancer research development. I don't take any proceeds out of any of this. Everything I do goes to that, which is one reason why I do it. But the other reason is I get such a kick out of people changing their lives in such simple ways, with such simple tools, without having to spend a fortune on a week in a seminar or something. Just some very simple, practical tools that you can use that will change your life powerfully.
Well, I love the third step, because when you think big, I think we all think we have like a certain, like maybe money level that we're going to reach, or a certain like house we're going to live in, or a vacation we're going to go on. And a lot of that, like you said in the beginning, is based on like how we grew up, or we kind of put our own glass ceilings up. So thinking bigger and thinking above that, because you're only going to get what you're thinking about, right? So if you're only thinking that, maybe I'll go to Canada someday. You're probably not going to go to Fiji or Bora, right? Because you're only thinking about going to Canada or whatever, right? So you got to think bigger of your goals. And I really like that. That's really good.
Yeah, it takes a little coaching to get there because we feel fraudulent when we do it at first. Like I look around at when I first started doing this, I had 10 English pounds in the bank. That was my wealth at the time. And here I am setting this huge target of earning something like 600,000 a year or something like that. And then went on through the program, same program we were talking about, very simple. And then 5 years later, I went from a trainee sales rep to vice president commercial development, earning twice that. And I didn't even notice the change, to be honest, because by that point, I'd raised it even higher. Same with my own businesses. To start a company with no money, no clue, no business plan, and say, I have sold my company for at least 100 million, to most people would be crazy. But the magic of thinking big, 5.5 years later, you turn around and say, oh yeah, I did that. What am I going to do now? And you just keep going. And it gets bigger and it gets more fun the more you do it.
I love that. And I think that mentality of what you just said, it gets more fun as you do it. Having that mentality of the inner child or the 5-year-old self. And I have heard that lately. A lot of people are asking that question on the internet, which is like, what would your 9-year-old self tell you right now? So if you look back and think about that, I think that you would probably set a little bit higher goals.
We never doubted it. I can remember at 5, somebody asked me, what are you going to be when you grow up, Sully? And I'd go, I'm going to be a ninja. And I believed it. And we have to get back to that, totally believing it. But we, as grown-ups, need tools and techniques because we're not 5 anymore, even though we feel like it. And so that's what the 3 simple steps is all about, the tools and techniques that actually work.
Awesome. Well, tell people where they can go. I know you mentioned your website a few times, trevorgblake.com. And they can find your book there as well?
Yes. So 3 Simple Steps is on there. And I have another book, Secrets to a Successful Startup. There's also a New York Times bestseller that's on there. And the transformation experience, which is the program one uses to get out of quicksand and have the life of dreams, that's there too. There's lots of information on it. Just drop in and say hello and go down the rabbit hole, trevorgblake.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll put that up in the show notes.
Thank you.
You can go and get your book as well as your free downloads. But thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So everyone, please subscribe to the podcast and please share this podcast with someone you know that will help them. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Expert Insider.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full-spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.